Today we're going to talk about Ohio's agriculture industry and the many forms it takes. OSU Extension, housed in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences, has a long history with agriculture in Ohio. We serve all 88 counties by serving the land grant mission of the university. We have 4 program areas to provide programming to all Ohioans, and we deliver knowledge and research to members of all 88 counties in Ohio. We're going to talk about multiple commodities in Ohio, things like agronomic crops, that could be corn, soybeans, and wheat, things like timber. Natural gas and petroleum are a huge commodity in Ohio. Tourism is as well when you think about the Hocking Hills or Lake Erie. We also are going to talk about the greenhouse industry and how that is increased, and then we're going to talk a little bit about poultry, including livestock.
The type of soils that are present in various places in Ohio really determines what production goes on in that space. Certain soils are more amenable for agronomic crops. Other soils are better suited for the timber industry or maybe for grazing animals. Water is an incredibly important asset to have. Having fresh water available allows production of a lot of different crops in production systems. The 3 major agricultural commodity crops are corn, soybeans, and wheat. Sales, especially of corn and soybeans, contribute greatly to the economic success of Ohio. The majority of corn, soybeans, and wheat are planted in the western half of Ohio, where we have flatter, more fertile soil types.
A tremendous amount of science and technology goes into making sure that we maximize the efficiency of our harvest. Precision agriculture, the use of drones, GPS guidance of the planting within the tractor, improved genetics. All of these things are used to make sure that we can plant as efficiently as we can and make optimal use of our nutrients and our inputs.
The historical prices for corn and soybeans can fluctuate from year to year. This is a factor that farmers have to take into consideration when they make their plans. They are purchasing their inputs, their seed and their fertilizers, often a season or more in advance based on what they think the market is going to do. Livestock are a very big component of Ohio agriculture. We're one of the top states in poultry production. We also have extensive beef production, dairy cattle, and small ruminants such as goats or these sheep. While not an agricultural commodity, the petroleum and natural gas industry in Ohio is a tremendous contributor to our overall economic success. The ability to extract natural gas and oil from the Utica and Marcellus shale fields in Ohio has provided an incredible economic boon.
Urban agriculture is an important contribution to agriculture in Ohio. Columbus and Franklin County have a needs assessment trying to use food as an economic tool to make sure that we can provide food locally. Food that is grown locally stays local. Being able to provide food within an urban agricultural space makes sure that we do not have to ship as much food into our space. But land access challenges really impact us in terms of what we can do with urban agricultural production. This is a tour of an urban farm located on the south side of Columbus. This farm was located on a land bank property. A land bank property is where a structure used to exist but maybe has fallen into disrepair. It is not able to be maintained, and then that property is removed. Soil is brought in to fill that site, generally not the best soil in terms of growing, but then these properties can become available for residents to grow their own food on site. This urban farmer is using multiple methods to maximize the agriculture on this small land bank property. Note the use of raised beds. These forms hold soil that can be enriched that is much more fertile than the soil that would be underneath. In the back, as we pan over to the right, you're going to see a high tunnel. A high tunnel is a passive season extension technique where By trapping the sun's energy within this structure, this allows you to grow crops outside of their normal production time. This also gives protection from the elements so that the crop is of higher quality. A lot of both urban and traditional farmers use season extension techniques like high tunnels to maximize their production throughout their seasons.
Here we are at the Charles Madison Neighborhood Memorial Garden in the rear of the Church of Christ of the Apostolic Faith, which is a congregation formed 110 plus years ago by descendants of formerly enslaved Africans in America. And my adult sons and nephews and niece who built this space are fifth generation congregants. So here I am in the farm bot bed. Pulling weeds, but the exciting part isn't the weeds. The exciting part is the farm bot, which allows us to bring high-end science and technology into this community, which is great for the children that we teach in classes. The rest of the garden is a more traditional space in which we grow fruits, vegetables, herbs, and flowers, and we sell the produce at $1 a pound at an on-site farmers market to make it accessible and affordable. And we use traditional gardening methods there. So it's a combination of the science and technology and traditional urban and traditional gardening.
Another form of agriculture on a much smaller scale are community gardens. Community gardens can be very small or they can be very large plots maintained by a municipality or maintained by a school or a church or even located on land bank properties where residents can grow their own food for personal and family food security. A rapidly growing segment of Ohio's agriculture industry is the controlled environment agriculture industry. Controlled environment agriculture means things like hydroponics or aeroponics. There's lots of benefits to this. When you grow in this method, you don't use soil as your medium. This allows you to avoid soil-borne illnesses or soil-borne diseases transmitted through food. A lot of corporations and industries are using this method for growing. This is a great method for urban agriculture because it allows heavy, intensive production in much smaller spaces, such as this greenhouse on the top of a roof. We have a number of different controlled environment agriculture businesses located in Ohio. Back in the 1970s, in fact, Ohio was the greenhouse capital of the world.
Currently, Ohio is one of the top 5 controlled environment agriculture states for herbs and vegetables. Controlled environment agriculture means all the inputs are controlled. That's the amount of light, that's the amount of nutrients. This allows plants to be grown a certain way that maximizes production and minimizes their inputs. There's different ways that plants can be grown. The first picture we showed nutrient film technique where plants were grown in long gutters that are bathed in the nutrient-enriched solution. This is deep water culture. Plants are suspended in rafts over enriched nutrient solutions to mature. These are done in much larger scale when we talk about how industry uses this technique for growing. When we look at this picture, we see heads grown in a huge 1-acre greenhouse of deep water culture. This can also be done in large-scale nutrient film technique production. As they need to harvest, they unplug the nutrient solution, pull up a gutter, harvest the lettuce, and replace it with a new gutter with baby plants. Other crops that are grown in controlled environment agriculture include vining crops, such as the tomatoes shown here, but also include things like bell peppers or cucumbers. These vining crops are trained upwards on trellises to maximize production by vertical growing, minimizing the amount of space and inputs needed. Smaller units have been designed where people can grow their own controlled environment agriculture crops at home, such as these tomatoes, but also include things like leafy greens or fresh herbs.